All right, good morning, sir. Before you're seated, please give your attention to Mr. Gibbs. He'll swear you in and direct your testimony.
Mr. Duke, you swear the testimony you're going to give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Please be seated, sir.
If you would, please state your full name for the record and for the jury.
Ryan Alexander Duke.
Mr. Duke, did you murder Tara Grinstead?
I did not.
Did you break into her home on October 22nd or 23rd, 2005?
No, sir, I did not.
Have you ever been inside her home at any point in your life?
No, sir, I hadn't.
Did you ever have a sexual relationship with Miss Grinstead?
I did not.
Did you ever strike Miss Grinstead?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you ever choke Miss Grinstead?
No, sir, I've never choked anyone.
Have you ever been inside Miss Grinstead's car?
No, sir, I have not.
Did you ever take a pair of gloves or a glove to Miss Grinstead's home?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you see Miss Grinstead's body after she died?
I did.
Where did you see it?
In the pecan orchard.
Did somebody take you to the body?
They did.
Who took you to the body?
Bo Dukes.
Did Bo Dukes tell you that he killed Tara Grinstead?
He did.
Do you know how Miss Grinstead died?
I do not.
Were you asked to help dispose of her body?
I was.
Who asked you to do that?
Bo Dukes.
Did you help Bo Dukes move Miss Grinstead's body in the orchard?
I did.
Were you afraid that he'd hurt you or your family if you told anyone about it?
I was.
Is that why you didn't come forward prior to February of 2017?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to talk a little bit about your life leading up to October of 2005.
Yes, sir.
So, where were you born, Mr. Duke?
I was born in Ben Hill County, Dormant Medical Center.
And what are your parents' names?
Karen O'Neill and Fred Duke.
And has your dad, has he since passed away?
He has.
Were your parents married, divorced?
They divorced when I was 2 or 3 years old.
Did you live with your mom or your dad growing up?
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Did you live with your dad when you were growing up?
I lived with my grandparents up until I was 12, 13. Then I lived with my mom. And I split time between them and my dad.
And was that here in the area?
Yes, sir.
Did your mom, did she eventually get remarried?
Yes, sir.
And who'd she marry?
William O'Neill.
You mentioned that you lived with your dad. Where was that? Where did you live with him?
Greene County, Georgia, Greensboro.
Did you attend school up there at all?
I did. I attended middle school.
Did either of your parents have any substance abuse issues when you were growing up?
My mom did.
It goes to his state of mind, his general upbringing, just what his experiences were as a person growing up.
let me ask you a quick question. That's the same.
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
My mom.
Irrelevant. He's talking about things that occurred when he was younger. It's irrelevant.
How's that?
I'll move on. Where'd you go to high school, Mr. Duke?
I went to Irwin County High School.
Did you play sports in high school?
Objection to relevance.
It's, again, just sort of filling out Mr. Duke's character. These are basic background questions, Your Honor.
I don't know that.
I did some my senior year. I had worked as soon as I was able to work.
So did you have a job?
I did.
Where'd you work?
Harvey's, the local grocery store.
Here in Ocilla?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a girlfriend at any point in high school?
I did.
And did you have a good group of friends?
Yes, sir, I did.
Who were some of those friends that you spent time with in high school here in Ocilla?
Deion Smith, Kristen Daniels, Stephen Giddens, Robert Upton.
What about Bo Dukes? Was he a friend of yours in high school?
We didn't start hanging out till my senior year.
Tell me about Bo.
I don't have much good to say.
Let me ask you this. Did Bo have a good reputation among your group of friends?
I don't think so.
What was his reputation among your group of friends?
He would cause scenes. He just show out just to kind of make anybody, to make a scene, to make other people uncomfortable.
Was he considered a trustworthy person?
No.
Did he ever say things that were weird or out of the ordinary, that maybe dark things?
Yes, he did.
Did he do that with some frequency?
Yes,
You know anything about Bo's family?
I do.
Is his family well known in the Ocilla area?
Yes, sir. I think everybody knows him.
Did you know his grandpa?
I didn't personally.
Did you know anything significant about his grandpa?
Bo talked a lot about the things his.
Anything Bo said would be hearsay, Judge.
And I'll rephrase the question. Were you aware of his grandpa's occupation?
Yes, he was a state senator for 20 plus years, I think.
Were you aware of any significant legislation or other political acts that he accomplished during his tenure?
He got funding to start the GBI. He got funding for the tech school and other works in the counties.
What year did you graduate high school?
2002.
Did you go to college after high school?
I spent a year back.
And how'd you do in college today back?
Not great.
How'd you do your first semester?
I did okay the first semester. The second, I just wavered.
Was there anything particular that I guess impacted you when you were day back? Anything?
Well, I'd rather party and go out and do my schoolwork.
So you said you stayed in college for about a year. How'd you end your time in college?
I withdrew.
And was that a voluntary decision?
It was.
And so if you stayed there about a year, I guess, did you leave ABAC in about spring, summer 2003?
Yes, sir.
Where did you live when you were in college at ABAC?
I stayed at home.
With, who did you live with?
It was my parents, or my mom and my stepdad.
And where did you live? What part? Was it in Ocilla, Tifton?
It was in Pleasure Lake, in the rural county, Irwin County.
Once you withdrew from college, where'd you work? What'd you do?
I got a job at Stewart Finance. It's a small loan company. They had offices all over the state.
And what office did you work out of?
The Valdosta office.
And what job did you have at Stewart Finance?
It was debt collection.
Did you start that job, I guess, was it shortly after you left ABAC?
Yes, sir.
So it was probably about the summer, June, July of 2003?
Yes, sir, that'd be about right.
And did you enjoy that job?
No, sir, not particularly.
Why didn't you like that job?
Well, it's hard to collect debt. Anybody that's ever had to done it, sometimes you have to repossess people's property.
How'd you feel about doing that?
I wasn't very good at it. I didn't enjoy it.
Did you feel sorry for some of the people you had to repossess things from?
How can this possibly be relevant?
It's, again, just building the character, Your Honor, talking about his general character.
That's the same as.
Okay. When you were working at Stewart Finance, where did you live?
When I started, I was commuting back and forth. I was still at home. Then I moved to Valdosta.
And when you moved to Valdosta, did you have any roommates?
I did.
And who were those roommates?
Hank McMahon and Bo Dukes.
And did you guys party a lot when you were living in Valdosta?
Yes, sir.
Did you guys drink?
Yes, sir. They both were either in school, or I know Hank was in school, and that's all Bo did was, you know.
Did anyone do any drugs?
Yes, sir.
What drugs did folks do?
It was marijuana and cocaine.
And when your job at Stewart Finance, was that a full-time or part-time job?
It was full-time.
How long did you work at Stewart Finance? When did you stop working there?
It was about a year, about that next summer.
So this would have been about summer 2004?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do after you ended your job at Stewart Finance?
That's when I went into the Army.
And when did you join the Army? Was that in the summer, fall of 2004?
It was, I think I went and signed up in the summer, and I started in the fall of that year of '04.
Were you dating anyone at the time that you started, well, when you joined the Army?
Yes, sir, I was.
Who was that?
It was Lindsay Ross McMahon.
Were you dating her while you were in basic training in the Army?
Yes, sir.
Did you communicate with each other during basic training?
Yes, sir. Phone calls when you got a break and letters mostly.
Why did you join the Army?
I thought it'd be good for me to be part of something bigger than myself. You know, I thought that would kind of give me direction.
When you joined the Army, did you have the opportunity to pick a job?
Yes, sir. They, you pick your job before you go into basic.
And what job did you pick?
I picked the one with the biggest bonus, the infantry.
And you say biggest bonus, I guess there was was it like a signing bonus?
Yes, sir.
How did basic training go for you?
The physical aspect, I've always enjoyed that. Other than that, I had a hard time.
What part about it did you struggle?
I wasn't capable, or I wouldn't be able to do what was necessary.
Did you think you'd be able to kill somebody if it came down to it?
No, sir.
Did you ever hunt growing up?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you ever own a gun?
No, sir.
To this day, have you ever killed an animal yourself?
Sir.
So did you make it through basic?
I did.
Was there like a graduation ceremony?
There was, yes, sir.
And did your girlfriend Lindsay, did she?
Yes, sir. She came with my mom and my stepdad.
Did you get a break or anything like that after the graduation?
Yes, sir. It was right at Christmas and New Year's, so we got a 2-week break before I'd signed up for additional training. So I would go back, report back in January.
And did you see any friends over the break, 2004?
I did.
Where'd you see those friends at?
Bo invited me to a party out at the orchard.
And is this the same orchard that we talked about earlier that's been talked about in this case?
Yes, sir, it is.
Did anything out of the ordinary happen at that party?
Yes, sir. I had asked Bo if Hank was going to be there because that was Lindsay's ex-boyfriend at the time. I didn't want to cause a scene. You know, I wanted everybody to have a good time.
And what did Bo tell you?
He told me he wouldn't be there, or he didn't invite him.
When you got to the party, was Hank there?
He wasn't there when I arrived, but it was right after I got there, he came.
And what happened when he got there? Did anything happen?
Yeah, he pulled me aside and confronted me about Lindsay.
And what happened during that confrontation?
Well, I told him I was sorry about how things had happened. I didn't do anything to try to hurt him. I told him if he felt like he needed to swing, that was okay. You know, I wouldn't retaliate.
And did he hit you or anything like that?
He did not.
And once you finished this break at Christmas 2004, did you return to the Army?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did you do? Did you have any more training when you got back, or?
Yes, sir. After reporting back, I reported for jump school.
And this was your airborne training?
Yes, sir.
Did you make it through that training?
I did not.
What happened? Why didn't you finish that training?
There was a girl in the unit before me that had jumped out of a plane and her chute didn't open, and she panicked and didn't open her reserve. She's an 18-year-old girl, died.
How did that impact you?
It shook me up real bad.
Did you stay in airborne school after that incident?
Yes, sir, for about a week. Well, no, sir, I asked to be taken out of training, and I told them I needed to talk to somebody. I didn't feel like I could do that anymore, that I either needed retraining or something. I needed to talk to somebody.
And what happened once you told them that you wanted out of airborne school? What happened?
They put me on a holding pattern where you're basically just waiting for another assignment.
And where were you at when this occurred?
This is at Fort Benning in Columbus.
And so they place you in what you call sort of a holding pattern. How long did you stay at Fort Benning in this holding pattern?
It was 4 or 5 days, and then that's when I left, and I went AWOL.
And you said you went AWOL. How did you leave Fort Benning?
I walked in my car, got in it, and drove and left.
No one tried to stop you or anything?
No, sir.
Where did you go once you left Fort Benning?
I went to Augusta, where my dad and my brother were living.
And once you got there with your dad and your brother, how long did you stay in Augusta?
It wasn't long, less than a month before they moved back here.
Once they left Augusta, where did they move in particular? Was it Ocilla?
In Fitzgerald, across from the hospital.
And is that the trailer that we've heard about in this case, the trailer
Yes,
across?
sir, it is.
And when they moved into the trailer, did you follow them as you moved with them into the trailer?
Yes, sir, I did.
And during this particular time period, you considered yourself AWOL from the military?
Yes, sir, I was.
Were you working at all during this time period?
I did odd jobs, mowing the grass. I did some roofing with my uncle, whatever, so I could contribute, pay bills.
During this time period, did you forge any checks?
I did. I took some checks from my brother. It was 3 checks.
Okay. How many, so you said 3 checks. How much money was each one of those checks for?
Around $50.
And you forged those checks, did you cash those checks?
I did.
And did that cause your brother's account to overdraft?
It did.
Did you ever pay any of that money back to your brother?
I did.
Did you pay the overdraft fees and the initial amounts of the checks?
I did.
So you were AWOL from the Army. Did you eventually follow up with the Army, or did they contact you?
I called and I was told to report to Fort Sill and report myself AWOL.
And where is Fort Sill?
It's in Oklahoma.
And did you comply with that? Did you go and
Yes, sir.
what happened to you at Fort Sill?
I was arrested.
And did they put you in jail?
It was, yes, sir, but it wasn't lockup type. I was placed under guard, but it wasn't jail type placement. It was just so they was worried, I guess, that people would run. I'm not sure, but I was placed in another holding pattern to be out processed while I was doing my brig time.
How long did you stay at Fort Sill?
It was 2 or 3 weeks.
And were you eventually discharged from the Army?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what type of discharge did you receive?
It was other than honorable.
Did you have the ability to appeal that decision?
Yes, sir, they told me after 6 months I could appeal and receive a general discharge.
Did you ever, in fact, appeal the discharge?
No, sir. I felt I got the discharge I deserved.
When did you officially leave the Army?
It was in August of 2005.
Where did you go after you left Fort Sill? After you were discharged from the Army, where'd you go?
I came back to Fitzgerald.
And who did you live with?
My dad and my brother.
Were they still living in the trailer across from the hospital?
Yes, sir.
When you moved back in with your dad and your brother in the trailer, did you work?
Yes, sir. I got a job at MDI in Fitzgerald.
Once you were back living in the trailer with your dad and brother, did you start hanging out with Bo Dukes at all?
Not much. My dad hated Bo. Stephen wasn't very fond of him, so he wouldn't come around. He'd come by and pick me up. We'd hang out sometimes.
When your dad was living in the trailer, did Bo ever stay the night that you recall?
No, sir.
And approximately when did you start working at MDI in Fitzgerald?
It had been September of that year. Of
2005?
Yes, sir.
What was your job at MDI?
I worked in blending.
And explain just briefly what kind of job that
You
was.
take a raw material, sometimes it's like chopped up wine corks, and you mix it with a sand-based petroleum and make plastic pellets. And they use those pellets to make molds for cell phones, for laptops, that type of stuff.
Did you get any promotions while you were at MDI?
Yes, sir. I was promoted to blending foreman.
Did you supervise any other employees?
I did, yes, sir.
What was your typical schedule when you were at MDI?
It's mostly 12-hour shifts from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 5 days a week.
Was it Monday through Friday?
Yes, sir.
What did you think about that job? Did you like your job at MDI?
I did.
And while you were working at MDI, did you continue living with your dad and your brother?
My dad moved some point in this time frame. I'm not sure the exact date. He moved to Eufaula, Alabama.
Once your dad moved out, did you still hang out with Bo some?
Yeah, it increased how much he'd come by.
How often would you say you were seeing Bo during this time period?
It started out just the weekends, then he just kind of progressively moved in.
Did he start staying the night at your trailer?
Yes, sir.
How often would you say that he slept over? Did you say it became ultimately every night he was staying over?
Yes, sir. It started as we'd hang out, be drinking or whatever, and he'd stay the night till, he just kind of never left.
Did Bo pay any rent?
He did not.
Did he pay any utilities?
No, sir.
Did Bo ever buy groceries for the trailer?
No, sir.
Did Bo have a job that you're aware of?
No, sir.
Did Bo ever have any money?
No.
How many bedrooms did this trailer have?
2.
And was this a single wide or double wide trailer?
It was a single.
It was a pretty small trailer.
Yes, sir.
Did your brother have a room in the trailer?
He did.
Did Bo have a room in the trailer?
He did.
Did you have a room in the trailer?
I slept on the couch mostly.
Why did Bo have a room, although he paid no bills, no rent, no utilities? Why did he have a room but you were sleeping on the sofa?
That's just where I slept.
Did you feel like Bo was using you during this time period?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did Bo ever leave out any kind of reading materials in the trailer?
He did. He'd leave pornographic material out, and I had to repeatedly ask him not to do that.
Were these materials of a particular nature?
I found them offensive. It was bondage. I don't know how I would put it.
Did the magazines that you saw today depict violent sex acts?
Yes, sir.
How'd you feel when you saw those magazines?
It was gross, offensive.
Did you ask Bo to stop leaving the magazines out?
I did.
During this time period while you're working at MDI, how much money were you bringing home every week on average?
It was anywhere between $500 and $600 a week.
And so you had plenty of money during this time period.
Yes, sir.
Objection, lay it down.
Did you have
Please
enough?
respect, yeah, thank you.
Did you have what you would have considered enough money to meet all your needs at this time?
Yes, sir.
Did Bo steal from you during this time period?
He did.
What did he steal from you?
Anything that was left out, you learn not to leave anything out you didn't want gone.
Did you ever accuse him of stealing?
It didn't have to be, it was me and my brother and him. He's the only one that would have stole.
At this point, were you buying food for him to eat?
Yes, sir, I was buying food for the whole house.
Were you putting gas in Bo's truck?
I was.
You were paying the rent,
Yes, sir.
utilities?
Yes, sir.
Were you basically fully supporting Bo financially at this point?
Yes, sir. He told me his family wouldn't help him, that they didn't want nothing to do with him.
Did you at least sometimes get to use Bo's truck?
The reason I put gas in his truck so he could take me to work. I didn't have a vehicle at the time.
I want to talk now about Saturday, October 22nd, 2005. Do you remember that day, Mr. Duke?
Yes, sir, I do.
Did you work the Friday night before?
Yes, sir, I did.
And that was your typical schedule, the Monday through Friday?
I'd have got off work about 7:30. I might have got home around 8:30 that morning.
And, excuse me, where did you sleep when you got home?
I'd been the couch.
What time did you wake up on Saturday morning?
It was late afternoon, 5, maybe 6 o'clock. I kept a normal schedule, to just so I wouldn't have to flip back and forth from day and night.
And at this point in your life, did you ever drink alcohol?
Yes, sir.
How often? How much did you drink and how often did you drink?
It was usually just on the weekends, to kind of just wind down,
Drinking, hanging out with friends?
Yes, sir.
Did you smoke pot at all during this time period?
Yes, sir, I did.
How often would you say that you were smoking pot during this time period?
That was probably every day.
How much pot would you smoke on just an average day?
Maybe a joint or two.
Did you have to have drugs or alcohol to function at this point in your life?
No, sir, I didn't.
Were you addicted to drugs or alcohol at this point?
No, sir, I was not.
You woke up around 5 to 6 p.m. Saturday evening. Who was at your house when you woke up?
It was my brother, Stephen Duke, Bo Dukes, and Ben McMahon.
What were they doing when you woke up?
I think they had started drinking. They was all kind of having a little get together. They was football on the TV,
What were they drinking?
Tequila.
Did you like tequila?
No, sir, I do not.
How does tequila affect you personally?
Usually makes me sick.
Would you have ever driven after drinking tequila?
No, sir.
Did you, and I think you mentioned this, but did you have a car at this time?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you have a cell phone?
No, sir.
Did you have any credit cards?
No, sir.
Did you even have a bank account?
No, sir.
So you recall that, did you drink tequila with the rest of them?
I did. They kind of, come on, let's take some shots. It's the first time I'd seen Ben in a long time.
Did you also drink some beer while you're drinking tequila?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall anybody else coming over to the trailer that evening?
No, sir.
How'd you handle the tequila and the beer that night?
I got sick.
Did you throw up?
Yes, sir.
What is the last thing that you remember happening on Saturday, October 22nd, 2005?
I just remember us taking tequila shots, and the next thing I know, I'm out.
Do you know approximately what time that night that you passed out?
It'd been 9, 10 o'clock.
Where did you pass out at, if you remember?
In the bathroom, hugging the toilet.
Do you remember anything else whatsoever about the night of Saturday, October 22nd, 2005 that you haven't already told the jury?
No, sir, I do not.
Well, let's talk about the next day, Sunday, October 23rd of 2005.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a clear memory of waking up that morning?
I was woke up. Bo woke me up.
Where were you when Bo woke you up?
I was still in the bathroom.
What were you doing in the bathroom?
I was asleep on the floor.
Do you know what time of day it was?
It was maybe 8:30 in the morning. It was daylight.
So you could see the sunlight from where you were?
Yes, sir.
Bo, you said, woke you up. What did he look like? When you opened your eyes and saw Bo, what do you recall? How did he look?
He looked panicked, freaked out. He was pale, which is, he was already pale. And
how did his eyes look?
he looked like he'd been up all night.
Were his eyes bloodshot?
Bloodshot, they were sunken.
So did he look different than he normally did?
Yes, sir, he did.
You mentioned he was panicked. I guess, how would you describe just his overall demeanor when he woke you up?
He was upset, shaking almost, just, you could tell something was wrong.
What was he wearing when he woke you up?
Blue jeans, a t-shirt, maybe a sweater.
What did he say to you when he woke you up?
Objection, your son.
And, Your Honor, this next statement is a statement against interest. And it is, I guess, if you want to go through the analysis. So the declarant's unavailable. Bo is unavailable to testify. We know that he's going to take his Fifth Amendment against the this particular
We're having
statement.
a speaking objection now, which is what defense counsel had asked us not to do, so I'd ask that we discuss it at the bench.
I'm going to sustain that objection at this time.
Thank you.
Bo woke you up, and what happened next?
He woke me up. It's hard to explain without saying what he said, but he said something that freaked me out, and then he went into the living room.
And what was your initial reaction to what it was he said to you?
I was disbelieved him. Bo didn't he'd say shit just to kind of push your buttons or, try to make you uncomfortable.
And what was your reaction? Did you say anything to Bo?
I didn't believe him. I asked him what he said or who he was talking about.
And Your Honor, can we approach for a moment?
Sure.